Oh, hello and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. And once again, I have to save the country and then the world. But let's start with these United States of America, which I love, fellow patriots. So maybe you have seen the recent weekend polling that shows that President Biden is being beaten by former President Trump in 5 key battleground states: Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona. And in Wisconsin, President Biden is up by 2 points, but that is, of course, is within the margin of error. So you have to ask yourself, what is driving this? And this is from the New York Times. This is not a Rasmussen poll. This is not some conservative polling bastion that is only asking, blue-haired elephants what they think of the race. This is the New York Slimes, the failing New York Times. And it doesn't look good for the current president, who is in a very different economic, political, and global landscape than he was in 2020. And, people know Donald Trump at this point. They know what they got out of his presidency. And there are enough people in these key states saying, yeah, well, it's all pretty insane and we're going to hell. So we may as well go to hell with the guy who can potentially boost my bottom line. Having said that, there are now, of course, Democrats adding to the chorus of people, establishment and otherwise, who are saying, well, President Biden, maybe step aside. So here's an idea that I have, because I know Democrats really love the idea of running against Donald Trump. But as you can see from some of these polls, that can be a dangerous pursuit, because Joe Biden at this point is not up by 20 points like Hillary Clinton was essentially at the same point in the race in 2015. Joe Biden is sinking. It's not getting better. He doesn't have enough solutions to move the needle with that critically small portion of independent voters who may be the ones that do, in fact, move the needle in places like Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. So what do? He has to step aside. He absolutely does. And I don't believe that the opposing party should want a weak candidate. I think if you're going to win big, win against the sure thing. That's why Republicans, even, the never Trumper Republicans, were so happy in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost, because she embodied the establishment. She was ready for a coronation, not an election. And it's obviously not going to be the same thing with Joe Biden, who was never a transformative candidate. He just happened to be running against Donald Trump. And now his ideas and the fallout from some bad policies have come to bite him right in the rumpus. So I think that Democrats should absolutely run Michelle Obama. And here's why. Yes, she's a much stronger candidate than any of the other Democrats in the field. She's never held elective office. Republicans can't hold that against her because neither had Donald Trump. She has been in proximity to power. She was first lady for a long time. She was the wife of a United States senator. She's an accomplished attorney. She's really well liked. She's basically like an Oprah that you can relate to. And, she is, by all accounts, a great mom. She was a very popular first lady. Hillary Clinton, she had pretty much the same resume before she was appointed to the United States Senate. And now Michelle Obama, and even if you worry that she can win, she's a rich lady now. And rich people want to make sure they stay rich. That's actually good, because someone like Joe Biden didn't become wealthy until decades of being a public servant. Michelle Obama, she has already left the White House. She has enjoyed the Netflix and publishing riches. And, she has a beautiful house on Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, wherever the hell it is, that they spring and summer. But they've got a net worth that's got to be close to $100 million at this point, which is not saying they're on the take, but rich people want to protect their money. So that is reason number one why Michelle Obama isn't the biggest threat. The greatest thing about Michelle Obama is that she tanks the political careers of two of the most worthless and annoying politicians our country has ever known. And that, of course, is Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom. Because Michelle Obama parachutes in, and the powers that be decide that she is the one who deserves the anointing, then that gets rid of the Kamala Harris problem, because a lot of people talk about Gavin Newsom potentially being the one who, sneaks in the middle of the night, magically gets on ballots. Joe Biden resigns in peace. But you've still got Kamala Harris to deal with, and he looks like a big, mean, white, sausage-swinging oppressor who's using his mansplaining powers to tank a fellow Californian. It's not a good look for him. He's got a lot of problems in his state that are also not a good look. He's one of those people who feels entitled to the presidency, which is never good. He has risen through the ranks of a monoparty state, never truly been challenged. He doesn't want to be challenged. He just wants to be the nominee. But if Michelle Obama comes in, then, here is a powerful, accomplished, beautiful Black woman who is far better at communicating her ideas and potential policies than Kamala Harris, who was an attorney general for the most populous state in the country, and also a United States senator before she became vice president. And she has a difficult time explaining her own name or origin story, which, again, is failing upward through a monoparty state thanks to the favors of other very powerful Democrat politicians who, wink, wink, helped her along the way. Michelle Obama is one half of a self-made couple. She gets rid of Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris in one fell swoop, but also she's very beatable. And any candidate is. And you can't assume you want to run against the weakest person because they're easier to beat. It is much more satisfying and I think much more gratifying for voters as a whole if a person they wouldn't necessarily mind leading them is beaten in a legitimate presidential contest. So she really is the only person who at this point could come in and be a legitimate voice for Democrats, as long as she's a limited government person, which, she's probably not going to be. She's probably turned into a total commie. But she was one of the least offensive Democrats. The field of Republican challengers at this point who are not Donald Trump, I think it would be a much more formidable and interesting race if someone like Nikki Haley and Michelle Obama took each other on. I think it would elevate and move our national conversation ever so slightly so we could stop accusing people of sexism. And, that way it is an interesting fight. I don't necessarily subscribe to the worldviews of either of those people. I wouldn't vote for someone based on their gender ever, but it is something that would be much better for my money than a Trump versus Biden 2020 rematch, which, it really is at this point still the worst of all worlds. And in that bad scenario, and we're told this every time, it's the most important election of our lifetime, and these are the two least likable candidates we've ever had. We hear that every year. But if you move away from them and have like an all-lady, glorious ladies of Washington wrestling, I think that's a glow we could all bask in. You heard it here, not first, because a lot of people have been talking about this for some time, but I think the idea is gaining traction and legitimacy. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. I'm Kennedy. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.